chain smoke and I say fuck a lot. But I accept myself for the way I am. I accept you too. Viewer discretion advised.
When you get tested for what they'd call HIV, they're not seeing the virus. What you get tested for and what shows up on your test is antibodies to the virus, right?
A very important point.
Right.
You know, it's just as opposite as you could get a virus.
Yes.
An antibody against it. That
Right.
is neutralizing and stopping and killing.
Exactly.
That is a vaccine.
You've no grounds for saying that anybody is HIV positive. It's just a contradiction in terms. You cannot say that these antibodies that are looked for with the so-called HIV tests represent the presence of a specific virus. That has never been proved.
One of the major problems with HIV testing, since the very beginning, is they don't test for a virus, they test for antibodies that react to many things.
Are you telling all of the folks that you're talking to up there, Dr. Groupman, that they can be reasonably assured now that they can go to a respectable blood bank and not expect to contract the AIDS antibody?
I think that's correct.
We're not testing for the virus.
Correct.
We're testing for the antibody
Correct.
to the virus. Now, we don't even know if they have the virus.
The most important thing in this whole debate centers around the fact that antibodies react with more than one antigen, and antigens react with more than one antibody. And when you have one or more things reacting with the same thing, you can't identify it.
How do I know whether I have the antibody in my system? What do? Go to their family physician and get a regular blood test?
Well, the antibody test is commercially available, and it would be possible for someone virtually anywhere in the country to get the test.
There's constant discussion in the community of people who do diagnostic testing and the blood bankers about how to read these tests. And you can get together a group of people and they may or may not agree. So all these tests are read in a way that we think is the optimal reading, but it's not ever going to be perfect.
The Reveal Rapid HIV Antibody Test is intended to be used as an aid in the diagnosis of infection with HIV. But it's the test. I thought it was an HIV test. No, it's just it's a helper. How does it help? Here's how it helps. Results of the MedMirror Reveal test should not be used in isolation, but in conjunction with the clinical status, history, and risk factors of the individual being tested.
This has a margin of error done properly that's extremely low. In other words, it's one of medicine's better tests.
If the Western blot is such a great test, why isn't it used in England? I mean, Philip Mortimer, who's the director of their National Reference Laboratory in the United Kingdom, says that it began and should have remained a research tool. So you ask some of your experts in the United States, if it's such a great test, how come the English don't have to use it? I don't know.
I can't comment about that because I'm not really sure why they did that.
Oh, okay.
I'd hate to make a comment about another country's practice when I'm not really sure what they did.
No problem.
Okay.
If Fauci's HIV/AIDS hypotheses were true, they should have been able to develop a vaccine, observes Dr. David Rasnick, a PhD biochemist who has worked for 30 years in the pharmaceutical biotech field. Fauci's fundamental conundrum is that he has told everybody to diagnose AIDS based on the presence of HIV antibodies. With every other disease, the presence of antibodies is the signal that the patient has vanquished the disease. With AIDS, Fauci and Gallo, and now Gates, claim it's a sign you're about to die. Think about it. If the objective of an AIDS vaccine is to stimulate antibody production, then success would mean that every vaccinated person would also have an AIDS diagnosis. I mean, this is fodder for a comedy bit. It's like someone gave the Three Stooges an annual billion-dollar budget.
Oh, a wise guy. Had to ask.
Many scientists are beginning to believe that a vaccine against AIDS may be impossible to make and too dangerous to test.
If you take it and then a year goes by and everybody's fine, then you say, okay, that's good. Now let's give it to 500 people, and then a year goes by and everything's fine. You say, well, then now let's give it to thousands of people, and then you find out that it takes 12 years for all hell to break loose, and then what have you done?
From pretty early on, they were already looking for quote-unquote therapies to penetrate the blood-brain barrier. I don't think that's good.
The proof that the virus which causes AIDS gets into the brain actually came from Dr. Gallo and his coworkers, and I think that refocused the kinds of therapeutic strategies that we need. I think all of us who are now doing new drug research based on this important lead, will be very uncomfortable with at least therapeutic strategies which do not provide some mechanism of getting effective agents into the brain, crossing what is called the blood-brain barrier. And I think armed with that knowledge, we can do a better job. And I think that several agents that are now under discussion on an experimental basis have that capacity to cross the blood-brain barrier and get into the brain. And I think that that allows us to do a more focused kind of approach for developing new therapeutic strategies.
If one does take any of these antiviral therapies, what is the ultimate outcome?
Pretty bad.
Pretty bad meaning what?
Death. These are very toxic drugs, and people die from them.
Fucking stoned.
I got a motherfucking spaceship. Oh, fuck. Oh, cool. I got it.